You hear that? That's another TCU fan cheering because Kendal Briles is on his way out the door, reportedly. Oh, yeah, it's Locked On Horned Frogs. Play my music.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? I'm Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, host of your favorite one-stop shop for everything TCU athletics, Monday through Friday, but you know it better as the Locked On Horned Frogs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network in the country. Thank you for helping us get there. We couldn't do it without you, and we wouldn't want to do it without you. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app. Create an account and use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $20 off your first purchase. We close out today's episode with proximity being one of the two big things and probably one of the only two things I even care about when it comes to this bowl game versus Southern California. I almost said South Carolina because that's what today is all about. I guess it's all about TCU and the USCs. Yeah, if you're on certain coast, you know who is which. USC is California to me. This is South Carolina, aka Kendal Briles' future home, reportedly. It's always important to throw that word out there. I was a big fan of allegedly. In my teenage years, and people say something, allegedly. Right now, as a journalist, I love reportedly because we have to understand that this is not official, but TCU fans were excited as if it was because Kendal Briles leaving Fort Worth is, I'm not going to say everybody because that's an absolute, but pretty much all of TCU fans that I see speak about the offense, speak about Kendal Briles, desired his departure. So that means pretty much all of the TCU fans that I see talk about TCU are getting their wish. And it's not even through a firing. I know a lot of people expected that to be the way to go. I mean, who could have predicted that you would go get another job at South Carolina? I don't know if this is a great hire. I'm going to take segment 2 to take a look at why I think that this makes sense. I think it's a very sensible marriage. I think it's a sensible direction for Briles to go. But one thing I'll say is this is 1,000% a lateral move. May even be a downgrade depending on what kind of extras they give him on top of his job. See, at TCU, he's a quarterback coach, offensive coordinator, but he's also an associate head coach. So I would want to keep that title if I was going to move from TCU to South Carolina. This is not TCU to Clemson. We've seen that with Riley. That was a step up. I know that TCU was coming off of a national championship appearance, but Clemson is, or was at that time, the premier brand of the ACC. Clemson was not on top of the world at that current moment, but they were still one of the top programs on a year in, year out basis. We've seen their downfall, kind of go since. But the point is that Clemson was a program that their name held a lot of weight. So yes, going from TCU to going to Clemson was a step up for Riley. There was a reason that made sense for him to decide that. For Briles, this is not a step up. For Briles, this is a lateral move. This is moving from a team that is middle of the pack in the Big 12 to a team that is at best middle of the pack in the SEC. I think they have some upside to be better than that, but they haven't been on a consistent basis. So this is a move that tells me I want to get out of Fort Worth. I want to scram. I want to kick rocks. I want to leave. And who could blame them? Did you see the reaction that TCU fans had to the report that he might leave? TCU fans reacted to the departure, the reported, the possibility, the interest that he would have in South Carolina with the party. Could you imagine the day he accepts the job? Could you imagine that? I wrote a little bit of a Christmas-themed poem. In relation to this. It said, on the 5th day of Christmas, no, this is not about the true love gave to me. On the 5th day of Christmas, TCU fans screamed with glee. You could hear the cheers all the way from Fort Worth out to Abilene because they got the report that their offensive coordinator might have a new job. When they heard he might hit the door, they ran for the doorknob. See, the the Frogs don't much like Kendal Briles, and they haven't in a while. It doesn't matter where, but South Carolina seems like a perfect exile. That's my poem, all themed with the days of Christmas. I'll be here for all 25 days, I promise. You just run it back if you want to hear me again, or DM me. I'll send you something personal. By the way, make sure you're joining the Everydayers Club. We're going to have a lot of exclusive access on a national scale here. So I'll give you more information as the week goes on. But this is something that we're doing on the Locked On Podcast Network. And maybe I'll give exclusive poems about everything going on TCU if you liked it. But anyway, on a serious note, right? Like, that's lighthearted, that's joking. But on a serious note, there was kind of a back and forth, a tit for tat between TCU fans and South Carolina fans. And I'm going to summarize it. It was basically it was basically South Carolina fans saying, y'all are ungrateful. That was interesting to me. It was basically TCU fans starting off with, right? Like, I don't want to act like TCU fans didn't start this. TCU fans starting off with, thank God he's gone. Now all the South Carolina fans coming in, he's doing this, because they're excited. They like that this hire is happening. They're a fan of Kendal Briles coming to the Gamecocks. And then TCU comes in with a lot of negativity. So they're sitting here like, I essentially want to defend their guy, I guess, who's not really their guy yet. That's a bad move. Life lesson. Teach your kids that. But they're coming in to defend Kendal Briles. And I think in defense is saying, look at what he did for you. Look at this, look at that, look at this, look at that. And I'm here to say, look at the points. That's what I'm here to say. I'm not one of those people who is here to bash Kendal Briles on a week in, week out basis. I see a lot of that on the timeline. I see a lot of it. I've never partaken in that. That was never my cup of tea. But what I will say is there's reasons that TCU fans are upset with Coach Briles. And if those reasons appear for you, you will come back and say, oh, that's what you mean. See, the thing about Kendal Briles is he does have a last name that holds weight. The thing about Kendal Briles is he's had success elsewhere. I've seen the turnarounds. I've seen the things that he's been a part of. I think those are actually much better representations of his highs than TCU. But you cannot ask for TCU, who's lived with him for the last 3 seasons, to say, oh, yeah, he did do pretty good at Houston. That don't make sense. For him to say, oh, he did do pretty good at Baylor. That don't make sense. Not because of the Baylor-TCU rivalry, but because why would I sit here when I have firsthand accounts of this coach and what he's done for me and focus on what he's done for someone else, especially when I'm the latest stop. I'm probably the greater representation of what you should expect day one, theoretically. I think that Kendal Briles has had a solid career. I think anybody who gets Kendal Briles would be right to be excited. I think anybody who is getting the TCU version of Kendal Briles, as far as purely where you rank, I understand what you've done is yards, but as far as points go, you get that, you're not happy. Let's toss the stats. Because here's my thing. When you speak about TCU fans in a way of they're ungrateful, what should you be grateful for? Because he got a bunch of yards? I don't think you would like that. But let's say this. What did you watch? You speak as if TCU was this juggernaut. You speak as if TCU was a monster in the Big 12. Of course, they had to be the top team, had to be one of the top 2. They weren't. TCU struggled all season long to sustain meaningful offense. TCU struggled to put together 4 quarters of points. They struggled to just say, oh, we're going to be good in the first, second, third, fourth. Forget how many they scored. They struggled to be good in 4 straight quarters on offense. TCU struggled with the ability and the willingness to run the football. I don't believe that these are opinions. I believe that these are facts. They struggled to do that. They don't do it often. They didn't do it well. They discovered it at the end, but you can't take 2 games and act like that's what Kendal Briles did all season long. These aren't nitpicking or anything like that. Not being able to be a good offense for 4 quarters on a weekly basis. I'm not saying they were good every other week. No, it felt like every week they struggled in at least 1 to 2 quarters. Every week they had stall outs. Every week they struggled to run the football. In totality, they struggled to score the football at a rate that felt deserving with the yards they had. I'm not going to say act like they scored 30 points a game. So that does count for something. But we watched it, didn't we? Didn't we watch it? Didn't we watch it not feel like a seamless project? Points don't tell everything. Yesterday actually, numbers and all that. Numbers do not tell the entirety of a story. I was on the Saint Squad show yesterday on Sunday, and we were talking about a wide receiver who had 40 yards, excuse me. He had 40 yards. The thing about it, though, was 2 of those catches came on the final drive of the game on third quarter. Those were clutch catches. So, yes, 40 yards may not sound like a lot, but when did he get those 40 yards? That tells you that tells you the importance of those catches. Yards don't really mean a lot if they're not accompanied by appropriate scoring. And scoring doesn't mean a lot if you can't do it on a consistent basis. I'm surprised that they have 30 points per game because when I watch it, it does not feel like a 30-point per game offense. We talked about this at the back end of the season. Kendal Briles or Sonny Dykes or both. It felt like one was going to have to go. Those conversations aren't new. These conversations aren't just now coming up. These conversations have been present for a while. Fans have been upset with Kendal Briles for a while. This is not a spurned lover. This is not, oh, man, we really wanted to keep him, but now he's not going to stay, so let's talk about all the bad. People have been talking about the bad and clamoring for his departure for at least a month. Maybe you get the Houston version of him. Maybe you get the Florida State version of him. I don't know. Right? Like this is not to me, it's not a bad hire. It's not a bad hire at all. And as far as Kendal Briles goes, it's actually a hire that makes a lot of sense. And I'll tell you why as we continue with Locked On Horned Frogs. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app today and create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. If you're eager to go to this Alamo Bowl between Southern California and TCU, it's in San Antonio, $73 right now. The tickets are on sale Tuesday, December 30th. You can make your way down to San Antonio and you can watch the game for as little as $73. Obviously, you get closer, prices go up. But my thing about it is you don't have to worry about, is this a good angle? Is that a good side to go? Because Gametime allows you to see your view from your seat before you purchase your ticket. And I say this every time. I love the all-in pricing because it doesn't give me a fee at the end. I've seen some people say, oh, man, if it's $25, I'll buy it. If it's $15 plus $10 shipping, I'm not doing it. That's how I feel about hidden fees. Stop hitting me with hidden fees. That's why I go to Gametime. Download the Gametime app right now. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege. Get $20 off, and don't worry about any hidden fees. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On Horned Frogs, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. Remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey is over. It just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Let me see if I can find any of these tweets. No, there's no way I'm going to find these tweets. I don't have these tweets on me, but I was going to find one of those that South Carolina fans, they were kind of talking and whatnot, but I remember I didn't save any of them. But I do think that the Gamecocks are a really interesting choice for Kendal Briles. Before we get to any of the other aspects, there has to be one thing that is addressed. Kendal Briles with or without Lenore Sellers. You got to make that decision, not knowing what's going to happen. I feel like, honestly, I'm recording this late. It's literally midnight. I wanted to wait as late as possible just in case some news broke on Sunday. I believe that you're going to hear that this is either done or not happening on Monday. Teams just tend to move that fast. I believe you're going to see the decision on whether or not whether or not Kendal Briles is going to be the South Carolina offensive coordinator Monday, maybe Tuesday at the latest. So I'll probably do the same thing on Monday. I'll probably wait till about 5 5:30 before I actually decide to record the episode. So we'll see how it ends up going. But anyway, Lenore Sellers is not going to make his decision by Monday. And they're not going to wait on Lenore Sellers to make his decision before hiring an offensive coordinator. Matter of fact, Lenore Sellers probably won't make his decision without knowing who the offensive coordinator is. It's not a chicken and egg situation. You know which one's happening first. Lenore Sellers is going to be the second domino to fall. So now here's the thing. I'm certain, Shane Beamer, the head coach for South Carolina, he's not saying much, but I'm certain that they've had conversations with Sellers. Hey, are you going to the draft? I don't think he really helped his stock this year, but I mean, when you're built like Lenore Sellers is built, somebody tends to fall in love with you. I don't know if the Anthony Richardson experiment destroyed all of the hype that came from Josh Allen, because there was a period of time where everybody, oh man, we can just create the next Josh Allen. Just give me the traits and we'll work with it. It might be ugly at first, but we'll work with it. That's what happened with Josh. Then Anthony Richardson happened. And now I think there's a fear. Are you going to be Anthony Richardson? I'd probably go back to school if I was Lenore's. I would probably go back to school. But that's the first question I'm asking. Are you going to the draft? Do you know yet? The second question is, if you don't go to the draft, are you going to transfer? And we'll know that answer by the beginning of January. Because if Lenore Sellers decides to transfer from South Carolina, he's not going to do it after spring ball. He's going to do it at the beginning of the transfer portal window. So I also don't think that you're going to wait until then to make the hire. But that's the crazy part about it, is that basically the most important position on the field, the most important player on your team, Kendall's going to have to make that call and not know for certain what's going to happen with Sellers. So that's the first thing that really gets me. And mind you, you have Josh Hoover right here. You got Josh Hoover right here at quarterback. And he's not going anywhere. Gambles, risks, things you have to look out for. But anyway, let's move past the quarterback, because that's just too much of an unknown. You don't ever know. But the problem is there's so many unknowns here. I said it in segment 1. Going from TCU to South Carolina tells me you just want out of TCU. And that's okay. I would too if I was him. I refuse to believe that he doesn't know how he's perceived among fans. I refuse to believe he doesn't know that. So if he is aware of it, he probably doesn't feel comfortable. He probably doesn't feel like a good environment for him. He probably wants to go. I get that. And South Carolina has some interesting familiarity, right? Jeremiah Dante, the former athletic director at TCU, is now the current athletic director at South Carolina. Dante is the one who hired him back in the day. So these are all aspects that, to me, make for a comfortable landing spot. They make for a time that, oh, okay, cool. I know Dante already. I know Jeremiah. Well, I don't know. They're friends, so they probably call each other by first name. But I know Jeremiah Dante already. He hired me the first go around at this last spot. I'm sure he still likes me. And if we're in conversation, that means he still has a little bit of an affinity, still has a little bit of respect for Kendal Briles, because this is not going without Dante saying, all right, thumbs up, we can roll with this. So that's number one. That's the biggest thing that works in your advantage. I'm sure he probably likes Dante. They probably like each other on a personal level. Otherwise, this wouldn't even be happening. So here's the other aspect of it. While Lenore Sellers is an unknown, Shane Beamer's job security beyond 2026 is an even bigger unknown. That's the part that makes me scratch my head. Is because I feel like Sonny Dykes is an unknown. I feel like you can't count on Sonny Dykes to be present in 2027. I think that 2026 is going to be a prove-it year for Coach Dykes. Cool. This is not me trying to put down Dykes. I think that if Sonny Dykes is going into a prove-it year and Shane Beamer is going into a prove-it year too, once again, lateral move. Once again, risk that's still there. Now, if I felt like Shane Beamer was coming off of a year like 2024 and their offensive coordinator just chose to leave and Kendal Briles went into that situation and you knew Lenore Sellers would be back, I'd say, hey, you did pretty good. I might not say it wasn't a lateral move. I'll probably stick with that. But I would say that was a good job by Kendal Briles. That was a smart decision by Briles. But instead, I see a coach who is going somewhere where the quarterback may or may not be present. I see someone going to a place where the coach is in a prove-it season. Lateral. And if you don't have a quarterback, one could say you went down. But as far as schools go, lateral. The reason that Beamer is so important here, such an aspect to touch on, is that Beamer had a strong 2024, led South Carolina to a near college football playoff berth. This year, South Carolina's highlight is being Texas A&M's highlight. They were not anywhere close to what we thought they would be coming into the season. Lenore Sellers was supposed to be the first overall pick. He may be serving another year in college, right? Like this may not be a year where you even come out, let alone be the number one overall pick. That's not happening. That man plays on the best team in the country, Indiana. Francisco Mendoza will be the number one overall pick. Unless the Titans get the first overall pick and decide like they don't want the King's ransom, which I don't think makes sense. But your first overall pick plays in Indiana. Lenore Sellers may be playing somewhere that's not South Carolina. So it's different. But you go into a situation that has absolutely no stability. You're leaving a situation where I don't necessarily know how much or how little stability that Sonny Dykes has. You got a new AD, like I mentioned, the AD from TCU being now at South Carolina also means that TCU had to get a new AD. There's no loyalty to Dykes. No loyalty to Dykes means no loyalty to Briles. So, you know, I mean, it's depending on how you look at it. But I can't necessarily co-sign this decision. But I think it's interesting. And if Lenore Sellers stays, you get to work with one of the guys who is in the runnings for the top overall pick in 2026 or 2027 at that point. So, you know, it'll be interesting. At least you get to have your quarterback. But I think a change of scenery was good. Going somewhere where you have some familiarity. He's worked with a couple of people on the staff already. So you have a comfort immediately as soon as you step in. And it's not like he hasn't had 1 year stints before. He's been multiple places for a singular year. If something happens and Shane Beamer has to go, because I can only imagine that the pressure is on him this year. From the outside looking in, that's what it looks like. Shane Beamer got to go. Briles got to go. They'll go. You know, I think that this news breaks on Monday. I think that a lot of you won't even hear me before this news breaks, but I'm going to have this joint dropped and ready first thing in the morning. But let's move forward. Because one thing that won't be expired is the bowl game between TCU and USC. Yes, the real USC. I don't know why people be calling South Carolina USC. I get it, University of South Carolina. No, University of Southern California. It is, come on, Reggie, Leinert. Let's be real. Anyway, let's move forward from one SC to another SC. Let's keep pushing on TC on Locked On Horned Frogs as we continue with Locked On Horned Frogs. Omaha Steaks is easy because during their Sizzle All the Way sale, you can stock up and save in a huge way, 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. And it gets even better. Locked On College listeners get an extra $35 off with the promo code COLLEGE at checkout. Because the holidays come with two big goals. You want to feed the family, you want to feed them well, and you also want to find gifts that they actually love. If you're in the kitchen, throw an Omaha steak on the grill. I bet you everybody's happy. If you know somebody who wants to get on the grill, hand them an Omaha steak, and I bet you they get happy. From hosting to gifting, they deliver the world's best steak experience right to your door. Save big on gourmet gifts and more holiday favorites with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off. That's 50 site-wide during their Sizzle All the Way sale. And for an extra $35 off, use the promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That is COLLEGE at checkout for $35 off. Terms apply. See site for details. That's omahasteaks.com, code COLLEGE. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked on Horned Frogs, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day. Every day, making it all the way to segment 3, and I thank you 2 times for that. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Now, I'm not huge on bowl games. Just want to lean in and tell you that. I'm not huge on bowl games. I used to like bowl games a lot. I used to say, why don't y'all love them? Then players started checking out. I wonder if Eric McAllister plays. Players started saying, hey, I'm gonna opt out of this bowl game. I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to risk it for the draft. Smart. I'm with that. But also as a viewer, it makes me not want to watch it. If Eric McAllister decides to opt out, now granted, you still have Jordan Dwyer, you still have Manjack, like still got small. You still have players, but let's say that McAllister decides to, I'm going to sit out. That makes this game less interesting. And it's a very good chance he does it. I wouldn't blame him. I wouldn't do it because I still think he can boost his draft stock, but I get it. So I'm not a big fan of bowl games these days. Also, the expanded playoffs means all the New Year's Six bowls, which were the only ones I actually cared about. Be honest with you. I didn't care about anything other than Peach Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Rose Bowl. I'm sure there's New Year's Six, so I think. But like I didn't care about any of these other games. Peach Bowl, Orange Bowl, Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Cotton Bowl. Right? Like these are the ones that I cared about. I didn't care about the Alamo Bowl. I'm gonna be honest with you. The Alamo Bowl, if it was on, I watched it. It was not appointment TV. So no bowl game feels good. I sat here thinking to myself, what's a good bowl game these days? What is a good bowl game these days? What constitutes as a good bowl game? It was a question that I asked myself, and my answer to that was simply experience. Experience and stakes and bragging rights. That's all I care about when it comes to bowl games. What makes a good bowl game? An experience. Being able to beat somebody that actually feels like you beat somebody. I think that's the best part about bowl games. I'm a competitor before everything else. And then lastly, conference supremacy. Everybody wants, that it matters. The people in the Big 12 want to say that. Now, I understand that Baylor opted out. Notre Dame opted out. USC, they didn't. TCU, they didn't. And now they're meeting up in the Alamo Bowl. And we'll see. The thing that's the biggest to me is that you're in Texas. Like I said, I'm not going to go too long on this. But the fact that you are within 3.5, 4 hours away to just drive down to, I think that's how far San Antonio is. I've rode every time. I've never driven. And I've only been down like 2 times. But you want to go to the Alamo Bowl, you can. It's not like you're playing in Orlando, so the fan base can make that trip down from Fort Worth. You can feel like you have a strong base there. You're playing Southern California, so you don't think that they're going to travel from California all the way to come over here. They're not. I don't think it's not going to be a strong contingent of USC fans. It's going to be TCU. It's going to be like a home game. It's going to be like a home game, though it's on a neutral site. So I think having games close to you is the best part about bowl games. I've gone to random bowl games because it was just, hey, they have the Armed Forces Bowl. I'm going to go there, right? Like I've done that. But now you get to actually say, I'm going to go to a TCU game. And like I said, $73 on Gametime. Make sure you check them out. Use the code Gametime. Which can be Locked On College. You get $20 off your first purchase. I'm just trying to let you guys know, help you out a little bit. But to me, that is the top-notch part. And Sonny Dykes mentioned that. Like, hey, we get to play somewhere where fans can actually show up. Simple. Did I think that they'd be playing 15 USC? No. The projection said they'd be playing California. And I know Cal ended up choosing to opt out of a game. But Cal in the ACC versus USC in the Big Ten, more respected conference, higher viewed within that conference. So you have a more respected group and a more respected group, TCU is playing a more respected group, and they're playing a more respected team within that more respected group. So that is probably also another big time positive. That's a thumbs up. That's a trend upward. So tomorrow we'll be back with the Kendal Briles news. I feel we'll see, we'll monitor. I'm pretty sure that happens. Hopefully I don't get impatient, record, and they say, actually, we're going to do it right now. So I'll probably record in the afternoon, evening time. But in the meantime, in between time, until the next time we hear each other, family, take care, stay blessed. Peace.